Good afternoon. So first of all, thank you all for taking time to join this session. Myself, Satya Sahu. So what I do is I work as a sustainability advisor, part of SAP Singapore office. So what I'm going to do today is I will talk about the transactional carbon accounting, okay, accelerating the climate action across the supply chain. So we are actually using the transactional carbon accounting in a way that every business transaction, be it like goods received, what you're buying, what you're making, when you store it, it derives, it has some emission to it. So how can we capture this business transactions and very accurately calculate the emission, the scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3 to get a accurate visibility into where our I'm sorry, to get a accurate visibility into our emission, like scope 1, scope 2, scope 3, so that we can act to optimize it. So transactional carbon accounting is basically talking about like accessing those business transactions and automatically calculate the scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. And when you talk about the supply chain, we cannot address the emission coming from the supply chain without collaborating with the suppliers. So as a part of my presentation, the agenda item says, what is the significance of the supplier collaboration? That is point number one. Point number two is that what are the challenges the industry is facing when they talk about that getting data from the supplier and doing the emission calculation very accurately. And the third is the software, which actually helps the companies to very accurately calculate the emission. And I will share a few real-world examples of those companies, including SAP, because SAP also use SAP software to actually to disclose our emissions. So there are three use cases what I am going to share. One is SAP, and there are two use cases, one from a discrete manufacturing industry, and second is that the process manufacturing industry. So climate action is relevant, and companies are acting. Okay, but there are few statistics. Here. There are a few statistics I am highlighting here. Is that as per the statistics, more than 70% is scope 3. Okay, it varies from companies to company. If I take SAP as a company, so our scope 3 is close to or little more than 97%, out of which 13% is scope 3.1, and more than 80% is that 3.11, the coming from our sold products. But there are certain industries. If I take cement as an example, it would be less than 50%. So it varies from industry to industry. But on an average, scope 3 contribution is at least 70% is what we see it. If we go to the right side, that it says 10%. That means like 10% on an average, companies have got the complete visibility into their emission situation. The reason is when the companies start their carbon accounting, it always starts with scope 1 and scope 2. Scope 3 typically like spend based, which is not very accurate. Okay, and companies either calculating or has got a roadmap to calculate that the scope 3 emissions. Out of 15, maybe few of them they're identifying when to calculate, when to disclose. So considering these facts, the statistics says that 10% of the companies have got a complete visibility into it. Okay, and the net zero, the company has got a net zero target. In SAP's case, like in our net zero is 2030. Okay, so those companies have disclosed if they have got a net zero target, it cannot be achieved without optimizing the scope 3 emission, because this contributes a significant portion of it. So let's look into some of the statistics. So if you look into what is the volume we are talking about when you talk about the suppliers. Okay, I'm taking an example of automotive industry. Valiant also took a similar example from automotive industry. So if you take the automotive industry example, so on an average, the tier 1, the number of tier 1 suppliers is 250. Okay, if you look into the multi-tier, it goes up to 18 multi-tier suppliers. So its multi-tier can go up to 18,000 different suppliers. And if we talk about that, reaching out to all the suppliers, asking them, the PCF, the product carbon emission of products which they're supplying to you, it's going to be a nightmare. Okay, so we are talking about this huge volume when you talk about accurately, calculating the scope 3.1 itself. Okay, that's one challenge what, we see. The second challenge is there is a volume and there is a challenge in getting the data as well. Okay, the data collection is one challenge what the industry is saying. Second is, once you get the data, how to calculate. Okay, so there are methods like cradle to gate. There are so many methods available. So what is the best, methods to calculate, the emission? And what is the methodology to exchange the data? It has to be like, standard format. The third, what we are, seeing as a challenge is the trust. The data what we receive, can we trust it? Okay. So to address this, there are, global consortiums. They are coming up with a, standard ways, like, how this data can be, like, exchanged across the supply chain. So WBCST, that is World Business Council for, Sustainable Development, came up with a framework called, PACT framework. That is, PA stands for, partnership. C is carbon, T is transparency. Like, partnership for, the carbon transparency. So using, that data can be exchanged. Catena X has its own standard. And similarly, like, other industries are coming up with the standards, okay, to exchange the data in an interoperable, manner. Okay. So you see that there is a problem, there is a solution as well. Okay, but it's evolving. Okay, that's the reason why we see that, the number of regulations, what is coming every year is growing day by day, which is also like addressing some of the needs. So how SAP is positioned to provide a solution? As you see here that there are 3 zeros. So the first zero is zero emission. That is actually helping companies on their net zero or decarbonization journey. Scope 1, Scope 2, Scope 3. One is the calculation. Second is like hotspot identification, then data exchange. So what is required to actually do the estimation and action are part of zero emission. Okay. Second is that the zero waste. That is that waste management is one. Second is how the the circularity can be addressed at the point of product design. So that is part of zero waste. And the last is zero inequality. That is that offering a a safe working environment. And how can I ensure my supply chain is free from child labor, forced labor, and there is new regulations coming, which is EUDR, EU Directive for Deforestation. Okay, so zero inequality actually addresses the such business needs. And at the top, you see that holistic steering and reporting. That is that ESG reportings and ensuring the data is given in a way that it is auditable by your own team as well as external auditors as well. Till the business transactions, till to the supplier as well. So today I am focusing on the zero emission part. So and our vision is that how can we help companies to manage carbon with the finance. Okay, so the transactional carbon accounting software, as you see here, okay, this is actually looks into all the business transactions in your ERP system, because ERP is the backbone to run the entire business. What you receive with respect to goods received. When you sell, we sell with respect to your goods issue. When you manufacture, there are many transactions. So what we do is we look into all these transactions and automatically do the calculation of the emission. And emission for scope 1, 2, 3 plus your product emission as well. Okay, looking into your bill of material and routing information, this automatically do those calculations. We'll see a few screenshots. Seeing is believing. So I have captured a few screenshots so that you can actually relate what we are talking. So this part of the innovation, managing carbon in sync with finance, we have the foundation ready, okay, which we are offering as a solution. But the actual syncing, that's the green ledger. So that innovation we are actually releasing 16th of December, that is next month. And once we release, you can see that in the single dashboard, you see your financial and the emission in the same dashboard, okay, related to at a corporate level, at a cost center level, profit center level, product level. You'll get a lot more granular level. You need to select like what level you want to see your finance and what level you want to see that, finance in sync with your emission. So this will be released middle of next month. And the actually the roadmap, what we recommend the companies is, because when you talk about the carbon accounting, typically it starts with a spend based, activity based, then average based by referring to a LC database. So what we recommend is that the world is moving toward very accurate. Okay, so you can start with our carbon footprint calculation software right now, but if you thinking of like making it more accurate, we have got software which actually helps you to collaborate with your suppliers. That carbon data sharing, that's the platform using which that you can ask every supplier their product emission PCF, which is supplying to you, so that you can do your own calculation. That is one. But from decision making point of view, your procurement team will get a visibility. If they buy product A, what is the emission they're getting? If they buy product B, can they optimize the emission as well? Because the procurement mindset point of view is optimizing the cost, and but ensuring it's reached to you on time. Okay, we are adding the third dimension here, that while companies while they optimize the cost, can they optimize the emission as well? Okay, so we'll see that a few during the course of today's presentation, but very briefly you'll see. So the first software is the sustainability footprint management. As the name says, sustainability and footprint. So this helps companies to actually do the carbon and product footprint calculation. Okay, the three things you see, 3 R's, so 2 R's and 1 A, that record, report, and act. So as a part of record, this actually automatically records the business transactions from underneath ERP system. If you're running an S4, which is like SAP's ERP software, latest innovation, so the system will collect all the documents automatically. Okay, but using any other software, then we have got those APIs to collect the business transactions. The ultimate aim is like how can we automate the calculation? Okay, without your sustainability team intervening in between, and automate and accurately calculate. Okay, the record actually does do that part, automatically retrieves all the business transactions. And second is it has got a provision where you can maintain supplier specific PCFs, product carbon footprint, so that your calculation can be very accurate. So record does that automatically. Once it gets all the data, it report that your corporate and your product carbon emission at a very granular level. And the third is the act part. Once it do the calculation of that footprint of every product based on the cradle to gate scenario, it actually update back to your ERP system. The benefit of updating back to the ERP system is the procurement team gets the visibility of every product which they are placing the order. And system also intimate that which product have got low carbon emission to procure, so that it can be addressed. So this is actually helping the companies to addressing or optimizing the emission right at the root level. Okay. So how it looks like. So this is the dashboard. As you see here, you see that the GSG emissions, scope 1, scope 2, scope 3. It helps you to calculate at a very granular and monthly level. So you can do that calculation at every month. End of the month, system do the calculation for you. Okay, and also this shows you, as you see here, that what is my top 5 products which I am purchasing has got highest emission. Okay, so that you can come up with that your initiatives, procurement initiatives to further optimize that emission. Second is that what is the top 5 products which is highest emitting. Similarly, it can show that which plant and facility is emitting the highest emission. So you get complete visibility of the emission situation in a single dashboard. On top of that, what I have done is we came up with a graphical view, is Sankey diagram. So you can see that what is my scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3, both from downstream and upstream point of view. And the thicker the graph, the contribution of the emission will be very high. So this is a visually gives enough information to the team that where I am incurring more or getting more emission. And this is a highly interactive dashboard where the team can do a auditing, if the 3.1 is very high as it's shown here, what are those transactions which is that actually used to calculate it, so that I can take an action how this can be minimized also. And we have got other software where you can set the target as well. For every KPI, you can set the target. If your aim is to to reduce the scope 3 by 25% by let's say 2030, so you can set a target, and the system will automatically show show you whether you're off target or on target as well. That software is called a sustainability control tower, that is for entire ESG reporting. So here we are showing the carbon accounting software for today. And if you see that the 3.1 is very high, and how it does the calculation is that it takes all the transactions, as I said here earlier, takes all the business transactions, and top of it, it actually define what is my supplier PCF, supplier product carbon footprint, to actually to do the calculation. And when you talk about that, I have got 18,000 or 20,000 suppliers. It's humanly not possible to reach out all the suppliers to actually to get the PCF. So what we have done is we came up with a software called Sustainability Data Exchange. As you see here, it can collaborate with all the suppliers. And once you have done the calculation of your own product, this also can help you to share your manufactured product emission with your customer as well. So it actually collaborates from both the sides with WBSD PAC framework as well as Katana X framework. And for manufactured product, this looks into the bill of material and routing, which is anyway in the ERP, looks into those bill of material routing and do the calculation for you. And what you see here, the entire thing can be you can trace it back. Okay, this side, left side, and right side as well. So this gives you interactive way to audit the data as well. And once it do the calculation, it can update into the material master, so that purchasing team can see or get a visibility into the emission coming from every purchase requisition and purchase orders. And similarly, it update into the finance, so that you can see finance and the emission in a single dashboard, as well as that it also updates into the supply chain planning, so that supply chain planning will consider the product emission as another dimension while optimizing the entire supply chain. So with that, let me share a few success stories. The first success story is from SAP. As you see here, we started our journey in 2009. There are many achievements till today. And since 2014, all our data centers runs on renewable energy. And 2030 is our net zero ambition. And to reach to net zero ambition, as I said that 13% is our 3.1, and 3.11 is that the use of sold products. So we have got a lot of initiatives so that we can optimize or reduce our 3.1, the upstream and downstream emission as well. So from upstream point of view, we have got initiative to procure the low carbon products for every transaction. That's one. And from to optimize 3.11, so that is our strategic decisions to move all our products from on-premise to the cloud, so that we not only reduce our emission, but also we help our customers to reduce their scope 3.1 emission as well. And we use the the product what you saw here today to calculate our emission across the supply chain. Second is the Vite Automotive from Germany. So they are the automotive component manufacturer into mechatronics, electronics and that door handles, seats. So one of the two of the requirement is how to calculate the emission of the components which they are manufacturing, and second is how to share the embedded emission with their customers using Katana X network. So that was the requirement, and so they're currently using two softwares from us. One is the sustainability footprint management, to calculate the emission of, the products what they're manufacturing, and data exchange they're using, to share across the network. The third is a steel manufacturing company. Let's hear.
With the current way of producing steel, we're contributing to the CO2 footprint of Germany with roughly 1%, which is 8 million tons. So that for sure is an issue we have to tackle. Well, Salzgitter is one of the largest European steel makers. We have a long history in producing steel. I'm truly passionate about sustainability and redefining the way we do our business from a line kind of approach towards a circular approach. And we have a clear path to decarbonize our way of producing steel. In order to make that a success, you need strong partners. You need partners like SAP alongside with us to support us in getting us there. It's cool to say by now that yes, we're going to make it.
Our SAP S/4HANA transformation program have major goals. We can build on this with SAP Product Footprint Management, SAP Environment, Health and Safety Management, and SAP Sustainability Control Tower, leveraging SAP S/4HANA data and business logic to gain insight into our environmental data. This gives us the ability to drive more innovations on SAP S/4HANA.
I think that partnership that we have here enables sustainable change towards a sustainable future. Ultimately, it's about the two companies having the shared goal of a sustainable world that we're going to create together.
Last slide is, I've shared only three, like one is SAP, Vita Auto, and Salzgitter. Sorry, thank you. We have got, we are seeing a greater adoption from APJ as well. Like, for example, Matsumoto Precision from Japan, similar to Vita Automotive, they are actually went live recently. CP Food from Thailand went live last month. So we are seeing a much greater adoption with a lot of many new and different scenarios. What you just saw, how the use cases are coming from Europe. We are seeing the similar use cases. Also, the companies here are implementing, and you will see many of those use cases from this particular site.